Each week, the teaching pastors of CityRise Church gather to discuss the theology, history, and key points of the scripture focus for the upcoming sermon. We hope sharing these discussions with you will help you go deeper in the Word as our leaders process together what God wants to communicate to our church family. Check out cityrise.org/live to enjoy the upcoming sermon live stream or to watch any of our most recent messages. If you find this resource helpful to you, please like and share this sermon conversation.
All right. Welcome to our CityRise teaching podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We are just walking through week after week the story of Moses. We've spent quite a few weeks now at the burning bush. I think coming up this week is number 7, if I'm counting right.
Still on fire.
The bush is still on fire. Yeah, consumed. And it's worth spending quite a few weeks, really looking at the text carefully, squeezing everything out of there, because so many of the big life moments, we have, I think, in so much of our faith journey and our struggle, we can find ourselves at that place, right? Like standing before the Lord, trying to hear his voice, trying to understand who he is, his heart, trying to find the courage to take the next step. I think we can really, really relate to this. And so we're jumping back into it again today. So last Sunday, we looked at chapter 4, the first few verses, and we talked about the excuses, right? And Roger, I went and listened to, I was, out of town for a wedding on Sunday morning, and I went and listened to your sermon here, and there was some really good language that I heard. Anticipatory anxiety. Yeah. That really spoke to me. And then kind of this going from what if to even if. And that's really the whole story of what Moses is, what he's trying to do here at the burning bush is go to what if they don't listen?
Yeah, you have that first few words in Hebrew, but behold, can be translated as what if.
Yeah.
And so I just really walked down that road. What if keeps me from accomplishing 4 different things?
It was so good.
And, God's very clear to him, go do this. Here's what's going to happen. And here's the whole start to finish. Really he rarely gives us that. Right. But he gave it to Moses, and his first response is, but what if they don't listen to me? Yeah. He just said, they're going to listen to you. And so I think that shift in our life from what if to even if, if this happens, I'm still gonna, is important.
I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago over at Houston's First Baptist. It was an adoption conference, and a speaker was speaking, and this is what they were actually talking about. So this is the second time I've heard this from what if to even if. So I'm like, okay, Lord, what are you trying to say to me? And the example this person gave was, the 3 Hebrew boys at the fiery furnace. Right. And when they said, even if our God doesn't deliver us, we're still going to worship him. Right, yeah. And so they were talking about going from this what if to even if. But that cool. Anticipatory anxiety, that really spoke to me. I think a lot of people, it's the unknown. It's the I don't know how this is going to work out. And so we come up with all kinds of excuses, all kinds of delays.
Well, Michael Phelps, I opened my message with Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian, used to get bound with anticipatory anxiety. He would tell his coach, what if I lose? What if I embarrass myself? What if Adele?
I heard you talk about Adele. Yeah. That one I didn't know, actually.
There's just these big people who have accomplished great things. They have to make, in light of what if, they still have to go, but I'm still going to move ahead.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get in.
What about you guys at our other campuses on this past Sunday with the excuses sermon? How did that go?
Yeah, I just asked 3 questions, pretty simple. When Moses starts to receive this word from the Lord, he starts to process it. I asked, how do you move forward in faith? Answer these 3 questions. Am I looking down? Like it myself?
Right.
And if you do that, you're going to find insecurity, inadequacy, and inexperience. The second question was, am I looking around? Like comparing
circumstances,
comparing my life against other things, other people, other strengths. He's looking at Pharaoh. He knows the strength of Pharaoh.
Right.
So he's comparing that against himself. And the other question is, am I looking up?
There you go.
Because that's where you need to be. And God helps him, right? I will be with you. Right. I am who I am.
Amen.
Throw the staff down. Put your hand, like look at all that I'm doing and who I am. And that'll help you to move forward. So it's really just kind of practical.
That's good.
To help people evaluate, where am I living? down, around, or up.
Yeah, that'll pair really well with where we're going this week with crisis of faith. What about you, Mark? I was
we talked last
Sunday.
week.
A good wine with cheese.
I mean, it seemed to be well received. Again, took the tact, what's in your hand, throw down your staff, which for a shepherd, your identity, and let me raise up who I want you to be. His strength in his hand became leprous, and so his own strength's going to be insufficient. And then, of course, the Lord says, if they don't accept those two, I'm going to turn the Nile into blood. And so it's like, look at your staff, look at your hand, look around, that God is sovereign. He's going to use whatever he chooses to use. And I see a progression that it's like Moses is looking at the Hebrews and says, I can't do it because they're going to ask me who sent me. They're going to say he didn't really send me. I think he looks in the mirror and says, I can't do it. And I think the Lord is now taking him to say, okay, well, look at me. And it's not that you can do it, it's that I will do it through you. And so I think that's the progression that we're hitting.
Yeah. So good. Well, where we pick it up this week, picking it up in verse, I'm going to, I think, go back, start reading from verse 10, but we're really going to dive into it is from verse 13. Verse 12 here, Exodus 4, God is really persistent. He says, okay, go. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be your mouthpiece. Go. And then in verse 13, Moses, he just comes out and says it. Lord, send someone else. It's a way of saying no. And so this is what we're calling this week the crisis of belief. So Moses has been processing all of his anxiety, his insecurities, his excuses, but God continues to be so persistent. Remember when he says, I am who I am, one of the things he's saying is that I am immutable. My plans don't change. And so God's not, one of the commentators I quoted a couple of weeks ago, it says, it means God is saying, I'm the one who doesn't go away. That's so good. And so God is not going away. And I think Moses has this moment here, verse 13, where he realizes, okay, God's not letting this one go. He's persistent. He's not changing his mind. And so Moses just comes out with it. Okay, send someone else, right? And so we call this the crisis of belief, right? And so a crisis of belief is this moment when in our lives, some situation is causing our faith to be tested, right? This is the moment where we really have to decide, is it going to be fear or is it going to be faith? Are we going to move forward or are we going to move backwards? And when we face a crisis of belief, we really have two choices. It's yes or it's no, right? We lean into the Lord or we leave, we go away. We trust him or we turn away. We obey or we oppose. And so before we kind of get into some biblical examples and kind of get into maybe how we would handle this text, I just wanted to ask and discuss, for those of us here, even as pastors, maybe what's the top moment you can think of off the top of your mind where you face this crisis of belief, where it's like, okay, God, you're not going away. I gotta say yes or no here. What am I going to do? When have you guys faced that crisis of belief?
It's a repetitive.
Just one.
Right.
But I know there's 10.
Recently. And in fact, I touched on this last week when I talked about throw down the staff. What's in your hand, throw it down. Your identity. As a teenager, it would have been athletics. And I literally had to walk away from football to go to a university that didn't have a football team. So that was my separation.
Took up soccer.
Exactly.
Different football.
Exactly.
Football.
But then fast forward quite a few years. And when I walked away from the IMB, that was more throwing the shepherd staff down as far as, because that was my identity.
Oh, yeah.
A missionary.
Whole career.
And I had worked with hundreds who have left prematurely. And I didn't want to be the guy that bailed. And so I kept pushing back. No, Lord, you can't be asking me to leave the field. Everybody else is leaving the field because they can't stick it out. I'm giving him all the reasons why he can't do what he's doing. Yeah. And finally he's like, are you going to listen to me? Are you going to follow me even when I lead you a place you don't want to go? And so that was my probably more recent major crisis of faith or belief.
Oh, that's real. That's a big one. That's a big one. What about you guys? I know there's many, but if you had to pick one.
So many. I remember this one time. This is not ministry related, but we're living in Florida at the time. We have a house in a suburb of Birmingham, and we can't sell it. It is the 2008.
Oh,
9,
that housing bubble. Yeah.
That time, right? And so our current tenant who was renting, we had to rent it.
Yeah.
So our current tenant that was renting our house informed us, hey, we're moving, boom. And so immediately I start to freak out. Like, this, you still have this much on your lease, how are we going to get another renter? Like, a management company's not doing it for us at this time, all this stuff. So
Right.
I go to take a walk to just cuss at God and whatever else I need to do. And I'm walking around my neighborhood just facing this crisis of belief. Like, man, this is just, because it was so stressful. This was like the third time we had been through this. And it hadn't been pleasant.
Feel like it's going to sink you. Yeah.
Like, none of it had been pleasant. And we're just ready to get rid of this house, right?
Yeah.
And so just asking God tons of questions.
Yeah.
Like, on my walk. I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, just complaining and looking down at the situation and all the human experiences and emotions you feel when you've got this thing that just is unplanned. And that was a crisis of belief moment. And all of a sudden, man, God just spoke. Like, it wasn't audible, but it was direct. And it was like, I already got this. And literally, like, a day later, we had the best tenant we ever had at the house.
Wow.
It, like, made my yard look beautiful and really got it ready to sell it a couple of years later. It was amazing.
Wow.
But God did it, right? But man, I just remember that there's so many stories like that throughout my life. But that's one that just kind of pops in there.
Yeah. I've got quite a few of those with a house too. So, still have one I need to get.
What about you,
rid of,
Roger?
but,
You know, I think for me, there was, in 2016 with Dan Hall's accident and that whole environment and just like I even said this later, the Lord brought me through probably 2 years later when I finally started to talk about that season. Man, I wanted to quit. I wanted to go sell popcorn. If somebody had offered me a job to sell popcorn, I would have taken it. And I think instead of that, where the Spirit's like, hey, you've got work to do. And it was like, I felt like, wait a minute, I got work to do. I was the one holding a lot of this together, right? That's what you think of yourself. And then but it's like, no. I'm the victim of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, I'm going to do something with you. I need you to show up and instead of just endure. So I think that was it. For me, it was more of a crisis of belief. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Is he strong enough? Can I do this still? When your heart gets shattered and you're helping somebody who's now a quadriplegic, who is your helper, who is the counsel that God gave you, to then you're asking the church, stick together after that season. So it's just, then we flood the next, you can't keep hitting these things. You're like, why this adversity? And it's really, what I'm excited about now is the other side of it. You do the work. You're right, Lord, I'm not done. You are able, I can. When you start to believe, then it really, all of that pain shapes what you see out in front of you and starts to inform your way, but it was do I really believe that he can preserve me and sustain me and empower me and give me a joy to do this again that I don't currently have.
Yeah. So you can't internalize it till you walk in it. It's the way it is. Like you have to walk in it, and then you're like, okay, I believe this. For me, I mean, there's a lot of them over the years. One brief one. So the Lord called us back in 2008 to move to Houston to plant a church. We moved from our small town up in East Texas, had a very comfortable life. I was in a great church. I wasn't one of these church planners that was like, all the churches are bad, so I have to go start a good one. I had a great church. My pastor was amazing. We had unity there. We were baptizing. We led our association in baptism, and we were killing it. And but the Lord called us out, right? And so it took us a while. That calling kind of started to come in 06, 07. It took a while for it to become clear. And then finally it was like, okay, we're doing this, and went through all the steps with North American Mission Board and Union Baptist Association and SBC and all this. And so we're ready to come. And it all came down to this moment where, where it got really real. I got the biggest U-Haul truck you could rent. I mean, that thing was huge. It's like one step short of needing a CDL to drive this thing, right? The big one. And we load that thing up. All of our family and folks there in our hometown came to help us. We load that thing up. Everything we own is in this one truck. Everything. The house is empty. I get in the truck to drive it, to Houston. Kelly, we got this little, I think we were driving a little Ford Escape at the time. Kelly's young, she's a young mom. Landon and Allie, who are grown now, were babies. I mean, they were just babies.
Right.
And so she's back there, two babies in car seats. I get in the U-Haul by myself, and I'll never forget. It's like you. I remember it like it was yesterday. I sat down on the thing, and when I put that truck in drive, that was the moment right there.
Oh no.
I put that truck in drive, and I had a crisis of belief. It was like, Lord, this is big. This is really big. That's all of our stuff right there. That's my wife. That's my two little babies. I hope you have this, Lord, and, but put my foot on the gas and we drove, and, here we are. I don't know how many years, like 18 years later now, but that was heavy for me. It was like that. I don't know why, but putting the truck in drive made the obedience feel very tangible.
Sure. Yeah. You
got to move.
Working to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, what's healthy here is going back and telling that story in light of whatever you're facing today. Like when David's going against Goliath, I fought the lion and the bear and this.
Yep. That's good.
Tigers and bears on my, I can take this guy down too, right? Drawing strength from is always a good play to run.
Yeah.
You can look back and see God's faithfulness,
Amen.
So
I tried to really think about, as we dive into this idea of a crisis of belief, we examine Moses' moment. I tried to think about in scripture, different stories and different types of a crisis of belief. Because, in Moses' case, of course, it was about calling. It was like God said, do this really big thing. And we're walking through how that he's insecure and he's trying to be obedient, and he's delaying and he's distracting. So a crisis of belief came in that case from calling. I think we see that in other places of scripture, right? Gideon is like, look, I'm the weakest of the clans. Like, I don't have the manpower for this, right?
Jonah.
I've got Jonah in mind for a little bit of a different one, but yes, Jonah for sure. Yeah. So there's a crisis of faith that comes from calling, but I think there are a lot of other types of crisis of faith. Another one would be a crisis of faith that comes from suffering. And I think, Roger, that's really what you are articulating in that hard moment where you face that crisis, in your pastoral leadership. I mean, it was a lot of pain there. And I think for a lot of people, the crisis of faith that they're facing today or that they're going to face is really about pain, And so, of course, first story that comes to mind is Job. He has this moment where he's lost it all. And his own wife is like, why don't you curse God and die? There you go. And
why don't we call him Job? Every time I read the words, it seems like Job.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Job. And so good old Job, he's got a decision to make, and then of course he wrestles with it. It's really hard. He wrestles with it. You got the friends, and then we have these beautiful expressions of though he slay me, yet will I trust him, in all the ways that he expressed his faith. Though there's a crisis of faith that comes from suffering. There's a crisis of faith that comes from isolation. I remember, Roger, you preached this when I first came on board at CityRise. Yeah, Elijah. Yeah. I mean, here he is. He's running for his life. He's under that broom tree, and he's like, I'm all alone. And we felt that way, right? You know what I mean? We felt that way in ministry. People have felt that way, that like, I'm the only one struggling with this. I'm the only one who gets it. And then, of course, God reminds him, hey, I got 7,000 people out there who haven't bowed the knee to Baal. So there's a crisis of faith that comes from isolation. I think there's a crisis of faith that comes from persecution. Of course, Old Testament example, the three Hebrew young men there, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. I think even Peter, I thought about Peter's denial. I mean, that was really like, did he want to stand up and identify himself as, yes, I'm with Jesus. I'm one of his servants. I'm one of his mouthpieces. And in that crisis of faith moment, he was like, no, I don't know the guy. Of course, thankfully the Lord redeemed him, and we have him preaching at Pentecost and proclaiming. But Peter, in the moment of, hey, your back's against the wall, we're going after you guys. Were you with Jesus? Yes or no? He real crisis of faith there.
I had a crisis of faith. My wife just texted me. Here's the deal.
Oh boy.
No, I'm going to just breaking news. Torchy's has buy one, get one free again today.
It's Taco Tuesday, baby.
She says,
You're going to Torchy's tonight.
Takeout was $14 last week. You want that again? Cheaper than cooking. I'm like,
The answer is yes.
Done.
That's not a crisis. That's a thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, and I figured
this
out.
is a life-changing podcast.
Yeah.
You can get anything else, get that.
Well-
Torchy's buy one, get one today.
Yesterday, I learned that Candente has half price nachos, including the brisket nachos, on Mondays, every Monday.
Wow. That'll change your life.
Yeah, that I might actually take the kids there now.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there's a crisis of faith that
to
comes
Bel Air.
from what we decided to
I
have
heard
for
it
dinner.
is. Yeah. Good for us.
Now, the last one I thought of is that, there's a crisis of faith that comes from doubt. Of course, we think Thomas, and I think there's other examples of just that. I'm just struggling to believe here.
Those are powerful, Ben. I think
They're
as you're,
really good.
as you're unpacking, I like a crisis of faith from waiting.
That's a good one. I was going to ask what other types of crisis of faith.
We
So
talked
waiting.
about that with Psalm 37 not long ago. I think a crisis of faith from failure.
Those are
Like-
good ones, man.
Like when you fail, when you sin, like when you're stuck in a sin. Am I ever going to get out of this thing? We all have our own little struggles with sin. We're not in heaven yet.
I'm going to add those. So waiting and failure. What else? What else can you guys think of?
Well, confusion. I think of young ladies who's been wanting a baby all their lives.
Yeah.
And they face infertility, and there's really no ultimate word of comfort in that moment other than the grace of God.
Yeah, that's good. Waiting, failure, confusion. I've been there.
I think of the great theologian Garth Brooks when he says, I thank God for unanswered prayers.
Right.
I just
Sometimes
thought about that
when
this
your
morning.
prayers don't go the way you think.
Yeah,
they should,
sometimes he has a different plan. Yeah.
In the moment, you sure are struggling.
No, that's good.
That's good. It's like anything, the word says in Hebrews 11:6, and without faith, it's impossible to please God.
Mm-hmm.
That is tucked into the verse that Enoch was taken, right?
Yeah.
And if you go back to Enoch walked with God and God took him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the Septuagint translation of that Hebrew story in Genesis, the Septuagint says, and Enoch pleased God, and God took him.
Wow.
In almost every facet, excuse me, here's where I'm going with it. I don't know why I've got allergies or something. Here's where I'm going with it. Really, in all sorts of challenges and struggles, there is a crisis of belief.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity to leave faith out, or there's an opportunity to pull faith in. Will we make it? Can we keep going? Is there going to be enough? Will we get renters? Well, there's a crisis of belief in so many. And I think the journey for us is like what Enoch did. But Lord, I'm gonna still walk with you.
It's a walk. Yeah.
And I think really maybe step back a step is asking, in light of these things that are certainly possible and likely in all of our lives, will I keep walking with him by faith?
Yeah.
And seek to please him,
And that's what we're leading up to. Next Sunday is take the next step, right?
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part, to take the next step.
First step's always the hardest.
Yeah. So a little outline that I'm kind of wrestling with and just kind of putting this together, how to articulate it as we talk about a crisis of belief. I was thinking about when I'm in this crisis of belief moment, I think I'm prone to say one or more of these four things, right? And I think we see all of these in this moment with Moses, but we can also see them in other biblical examples. So the first one is just plainly, no, Lord. So we're going to see ultimately, Moses is sort of rejecting the mission of God, but I think even before that, he's really struggling and maybe a bit tempted to reject the God of the mission, because remember a couple of weeks ago, he's wrestling with who are you? I think he's really trying to still form his faith at this point.
Sure.
He's wrestling at the burning bushes, whether or not he's going to embrace Yahweh and follow him. So some people just say, no, Lord, right? God says, I want you to do this. And in that crisis of faith, one way we could respond to it inappropriately is just to say, no, this was Jonah chapter 1. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, arise, go to Nineveh. And he just flat said no.
Yeah. How many people we come across in our conversations who the Lord called them in their early, late teens, early 20s,
right,
into vocational ministry.
And just didn't
about 45, they're like, okay, I surrender. I'm gonna
a lot of pain in that story. Yeah.
I should have done this, right? There was that is a very viable choice that people make is no, Lord.
Yeah. And we see that with Jonah. I'll probably go there, Jonah chapter 1. The next one is really explicitly what Moses is saying here, verse 13 in particular, not me, Lord.
Yep.
Like he literally says, okay, look, can you just send someone else?
Here am I, send Aaron.
Here am I, send Aaron. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty explicit.
Yeah.
Like in Jeremiah chapter 1, says something similar, right? The Lord calls Jeremiah, before you were born, I ordained you to be a prophet to the nations. This is Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4-8. And he says, not me, Lord. I'm just a youth. I'm just a youth, and so who else in scripture can you think of?
I think
others that just did the not me, Lord thing?
I think Ananias, when he has to go to Paul or Saul at the time,
Okay.
Are you crazy?
Huh?
Like, no way, not me. Some of those, some of those, right?
Yeah.
Well, he was saying not me, but also not him.
I know.
Right. You know what this guy's been doing?
Well, and that's what Jonah was saying.
Yeah,
They're not
them.
worthy of your love.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah,
not
not
worthy
them.
of the
Yeah.
covenant,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And so that gets us to say no, or not me, like send someone else.
Mm-hmm. I felt that way. When the
And
Lord
then
was
I think
calling
you
me
could
to
even
ministry.
ask,
Yeah.
okay, what's the one assignment you would tell him no to? Right?
Mhm.
But isn't it interesting? Like, I will be with you. I'll be with your voice. You will speak. They will listen to your voice. Hey, I can't I stutter. I can't make words well and articulate them well. And God, it was. This is my question. Let's let you theologians answer it. Did God plan for Aaron to go, or did God allow Aaron to go? I think God planned for Moses to go and speak. In other words, I want to use your weakness. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, that's a big question.
I want to use your weakness. Yeah, I know it's your
Yeah.
weakness. It's okay. I want to use you in your weakness.
I will say verses 10 through 12 are extremely personal to me.
Tell me.
I remember well toward the end of 1991, I was a preacher who couldn't preach. I was in a strange land trying to learn an impossible language. And I was on the border of depression
Wow.
because I literally sounded like a kindergartner on my best day. And I literally came to this passage and it said, Lord, I'm not eloquent. And I just started weeping. I'm saying, Lord, this is me.
Wow.
I can't talk. You call me to preach. Are you sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be? And I started recounting, the last year I was pastor, we baptized this many people. We saw this. And now I've been here 8-10 months. Haven't seen anybody come to faith.
Yeah.
Can't even preach. And the beautiful answer isn't that God says, I'll give you eloquence. He says, I'll be with you. And that was a turning point for me. Now, he never gave me eloquence in Polish, but he gave me power that he blessed when I preached. And it was life-changing for me. From that day forward, I had other doubts, but I never doubted. He called me, he equipped me like he does with Moses. He's going to be with me. And again, it wasn't easy. I stumbled over words.
How long did it take y'all to have your first convert?
It was the second year. Again, miraculous story there. Met Susie and I flipped a coin and she lost, so she went to the parents' meeting. And again, even that was ordained
So
by God.
spiritual.
Because
It's profoundly spiritual.
a lady neighbor came, and she's the only one that spoke a little English. And so she translated for Susie. She came to our house. We gave our testimony, and she said, I've never met anyone that knows God. And she was our first convert.
Wow.
And her husband came to the Lord later, and it was just a ripple.
Wow.
So yeah, the Lord was always faithful, but specifically for a preacher who can't talk.
Yeah.
You guys understand that.
Right.
A lot of people that are listening, they're like, whatever.
I mean, I felt that way, when I first started. Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing how you find yourself in that story, how personal that is. I love your question, Roger, about so why does God say, Okay, here's Aaron. I mean, I've always thought about that a lot. I think there's a lot there, right?
I think it's the kindness of God.
Yeah, I was going to say,
sure.
there's some grace and mercy there. There's some kindness.
I'm going to bring him to you. You don't have to go alone. I'm going to send him with you. You'll speak to him. He'll speak to them. But I wonder, do we, in our negotiation with God and just kind of, in our sense of our inadequacy and our excuses, what have you, is he not just gracious and he's still going to accomplish his will, but did Moses leave some of the reward on the table because of his unwillingness? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know either. Here's what
really good question.
Here's what I do know.
Fumbled the ball a few times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Here's what I do know. God never wants us to be alone.
Yeah. It's a good word in that. Yeah.
And so I think of the kindness of God bringing somebody alongside
here's a buddy.
in human form with flesh.
Yes, sir.
Alongside of Moses,
Great.
Regardless of what the assignment was. I see the same thing. This blows my mind every time I read it. It's the Christmas story when Mary says, I am the Lord's servant. And here she is, but then she runs where? She runs to Elizabeth, who's in her 6th month through a divine act too.
She's supposed to be with somebody.
Mary's not alone. Elizabeth's not alone. They have each other. They have community.
So good.
So that they can actually carry out what God has called them to do.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think Moses is the same thing. And we need to all be looking for the gift of community that God gives to us, whatever that assignment. The Lord will not let us be alone.
Yeah. That's actually my second point on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
The first point is God gives the ability.
Yeah.
God's with him to speak. And the second one, he co-laborers.
Yeah.
Now, something I think we sometimes miss with Moses and his speech is Moses' first language was Egyptian. That's where he was raised. And I think some of that, and he lives among the Midianites, their language is actually Arabic. And so you have 40 years of probably mixing Egyptian, Hebrew, Arabic. And again, for Americans, that's hard. Living in Europe, you see people mixing languages all the time.
Sure.
And so there's this uncertainty. Well, I'm not very good in this language. And again, Aaron would have been almost predominantly in a Hebrew-speaking context. And he probably spoke Egyptian too, just for the taskmasters and things. So again, that was another layer for me that Moses had to learn another language. So I'm like, okay, so I'm not the first one ever to do this. So I think some of that enters in. That he had to speak Hebrew to the Hebrews and Egyptian to Pharaoh. Yeah. And maybe he just felt, I can't do this well.
Yeah.
And as far as Aaron, the only reason I see God's bigger picture is I believe God is obviously positioning for the Aaronic priesthood that's going to come through him. In verse 27, he's calling him while he's in slavery, while he's telling Moses, and the mystery that's never answered is, do they know each other? I mean, it's been 80 years since Moses was put in a little basket. And so Miriam was there. There's no mention of Aaron at the birth
Aaron's
narrative.
younger brother, right?
And so
Interesting.
Did they connect while he's in the palace? We don't know.
That's a good question.
And so, but it says when they find each other, they kiss, they're fond. So there is a joy, but it's not clear if they've really kept up.
Well, here's what my takeaway is. You've already got your points worked out for the sermon. You've already got your points worked out. I'm like, man, it's Tuesday. I'm glad y'all are ahead of me.
in this bit with Aaron, I also see a leadership lesson that encourages me, and it's like it's the kindness of God, but there's almost like a permission giving there of like, okay, if God can use you, He's called you to lead, but if you're not strong in this particular area, there's permission to bring someone beside you.
Sure.
So, for example, I can lead worship. I'm capable of doing that from a leadership standpoint. I can drive a band. I can play guitar. I just can't sing worth a darn. And so it's just no good.
I agree. I've heard
and so, but if you put somebody who can really sing well beside me, I can lead worship any day, anywhere.
Yeah.
But I just have to have that strong vocal beside me, if that makes sense, because it's just not what I do every day. And so I think that there's a lot of freedom in that. It's like, okay, so I'm not good at this part. Like, okay, who is? And,
I wrote a proposal for a book one time. The book's called Other Leaders. And the premise of the book is that every leader has needs that can only be met in and through other leaders.
It's a good word.
Didn't do anything with it.
You should still write it.
Anywhere. Now that I've got a little experience, who knows? But But I think that's the principle is that
Yeah.
no leader is complete. You know, if you
Sure.
you look at Moses, ultimately on the journey, he's got Aaron, Miriam, Hur, Joshua, the 70. You know, Jethro as a counselor. Like there's an array of leaders around him that is going to allow him to ultimately spend time with God and discern the next steps and record the law and give the law and then give it a second time to the next generation, et cetera, because there was gifts of leadership around him.
Exactly.
And I think that's the task of Moses is to tap into those guys.
Absolutely.
Through the journey. But that's a whole nother.
And it's so comfortable.
That was for free.
Yeah. Well, and it's a comforting message, and it's also convicting because I, as a leader, then the leader's journey is I have to humble myself and recognize this is where someone else alongside me will be stronger.
Maybe
you know,
better.
so that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap it up, so there's no Lord, there's not me, Lord. The next one is not now, Lord. And so Moses does a lot of kicking the can, right? He did a lot of delaying. He's dragging this conversation out. And I heard you say, Roger, I think maybe last Sunday, delayed obedience is disobedience. And I thought about Numbers 13.
I talked about that last week.
Did you? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm late to the party.
For those of us who aren't just dialing up Numbers 13 in our head, what is it?
Yeah, Numbers 13. So you got there.
Grasshoppers.
Caleb is like, let's go take the land now. Like God wants us, let's go do it right now. And then the people are like, hold on a minute. They're too big. They're too strong. So there was a delay to enter the promised land. And what it cost them 40 years of wilderness wandering.
And then Caleb went and took those giants.
The mountains.
Exactly. Mountains, those 3 giants. He went and slayed them.
At 80.
Yeah.
So and I think there's other examples.
Sure.
You know, of course, Jonah in there as well. And then finally, and I think this one gets tough and people can really find themselves. The last one is not this, Lord. So, you know, we talked about there's this rejection of the God of the mission, but for people who, okay, we've accepted the God of the mission, we're following him, but we might reject the mission of God in terms of like, this is what he's asking me to do. And I even thought about, and you tell me if this is theologically appropriate, I even thought about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, he really faces, even as the Son of God, he faces a crisis of belief of sorts. He's sweating great drops of blood, and he says, Father, if there's any way, remove this cup from me. Now, of course, he passes the crisis of faith, you know, and of course he's going to because
the
God
word says he faces everything that we do.
He did, yeah. And so he says,
he was without sin.
Yeah, nevertheless, not my will, but yours. But I think that's a real crisis of faith that Jesus has in the garden.
That's comforting to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's like, not this cup.
Yeah.
And boy, how many times have we said, oh, Lord, I can say yes to this, and this, but not this. And so that's kind of the final thing we might say in a crisis of belief is not this, Lord, right? So no, Lord, not me, Lord.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why would we say not this, Lord? Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess when you said that, my first thought was when you have children or grandchildren, I'm like, I'm about to stand up and preach and I get a phone call. My grandson literally quit breathing and had a seizure and all that. And it's almost like, Lord, you can do this to me. I think that's what goes through our mind. You know, take me, Lord, don't. And so when you're saying not this, but that, and I would say, Lord, I've left everything, went overseas. There's so many things I'd say, sure, I'll do that. But in our flesh, I think there are those almost like, please, not my child, not my grandson. You know, so that may be. And for Moses, again, he's framed the whole conversation. How can I get out of this from first excuse to last? And I think I may entitle it this week, You Shall. Because that's what you shall, yeah. He comes back, okay, I hear that, but you shall go and you shall deliver my people. I shall deliver my people through you. Yeah. So again, it's ultimately God's purposes.
And I think sometimes we would, there are those things that are the potential risks, like, Lord, I want to do this, but I like, please don't. Like, just like the greatest fear.
Right.
Like my greatest fear would keep me from saying, not this, Lord, would cause me to say, not this, Lord. Right.
Yeah.
But also sometimes it's the fear of fear, like I was talking about last week in my message. Like we create a bigger, like we give the situation we might see ourselves stepping into more authority than we should.
In fact, I've heard Chinese persecuted Christians, and that's what they said. They said the best thing that happened was the first time they put cuffs on me. They said, because then I knew this is all they can do. They said they were overwhelmed with fear that that day would come, and they were in worship. They broke in, they cuffed them, and they said there was this clarity. They said they can't do it worse. And they said from then on they were free.
Wow.
And I thought, wow. You know, of course,
sometimes we give fear too much power
Exactly.
over our lives, and so learning to go, yeah, that's a real fear, right? That potential thing, or yeah, that's a possibility, but I'm gonna proceed anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what. How many times have we even said it? Probably, faith is the absence of fear. I think that's so wrong.
Yeah,
I think it's do it scared.
Yeah,
overcoming fear. Yeah,
that's faith. I am scared and I'm still going.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, like that's what we're talking about.
Agreed.
You know, and
I had one of our young college students. He came up to me Sunday because I talked about these different fears or angst and the like that, and he's like, so he goes, I've memorized these scriptures and this, that, and the other, and he's like, but I'm dealing with fear all the time. And I said, welcome to adulthood. Can I just be honest with you? I said, hey man, it's not that this is going to go away. It's not. I mean, like the older you, I said, wait till you have a child who then goes off to college or who drives down on the freeway at 16. I mean, you're scared.
Oh,
you know,
goodness.
and so I mean, like those are the. It's not that fear goes away. It's I learned to function faithfully in faith in the midst of fear. I think you're exactly right.
That's good. That's good.
So I think that so how do you lift them up? Like, what's the antidote, Ben? Are you just going to leave it at that and you're just going to tell them that, or are you going to give them something to do?
Well, I think we're really setting up well for the following Sunday, which is take the first step. So I think that's where I'm going to leave them as a little bit of a teaser. Come back more for next week is like, how do we take the next step? And of course, we encourage them, you know, in the ways that we have been the last few weeks that, hey, God's got this, you know, like the safest place, the most satisfying place you can be is in the center of his will, no matter what the circumstances.
I wouldn't say safest, I would say satisfying.
Yeah.
You get martyred in the center of his will.
Well, but
come on.
But you end up in heaven. That's pretty safe.
That's pretty safe.
You know what I mean, right?
Right.
Yeah. Not safety in the
human sense.
You know, in the sort of the American sense, you know, but like safety in terms of like my life counts. My life matters the most. It's most significant.
Well, in
the center of God's will.
Actually references the staff again, which I think is a great ending verse. It's like the first weapon of mass destruction, the first WMD. That what had been the staff of Moses is now the staff of God, and that's he says, and I give you that staff. Yeah, and so that's where he transitions.
I think a great practical question, and you've already asked it here, Ben, is just what is it for you?
Yeah.
What is your crisis of belief?
Yeah.
And then running straight back to God's name.
Yep.
His first name.
Yep.
I am, right?
Yeah, and that's a good way to close the loop, actually, is to go back to I am. Yeah. Let's remember what that means. And then I think just saying, hey, you just got to take the first step.
Yeah.
We're going to come back next week and talk more about that. How do we take the first step?
Yeah.
You know?
And actually, when he speaks back, when he says, Lord, send someone else, he doesn't say Yahweh. He says Adonai. And so it's almost like
you can't get it out.
I'm going to stay away from that. Even in his negotiation, it's like, Lord, sir, instead of I am, send somebody else.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't catch that. That's good.
Yeah, that name is big.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying this Teaching Pastor podcast here at CityRise. We hope to see you more than anything this Sunday at one of our campuses. Come out and join us in person. Walk with us through the book of Exodus, through the life of Moses, as we seek to answer this question, can I still experience God?